back to another episode of CEOs of the Industry. We have Greg Howard from Christensen Farms joining us today. Welcome, Greg.
Thank you, Jim. Thanks for having me.
A new leadership role for you, Greg. Congratulations again on your appointment as president and CEO at Christensen Farms. Can you share your vision for the company moving forward and how you plan to continue growth trajectory?
Well, thank you, Jim. Thanks for the acknowledgement of becoming CEO of such a great company. You know, our company has been around. We're in our 50th year this year. We don't quite know the date, so we're just going to celebrate it the whole year. But of course, it was started by Bob Christensen, and it was really the genesis of a 4-H project. But we've grown immensely throughout the years, and it's a wonderful company to be part of. So there's a lot of great things that are in motion already when I took the seat as CEO, large in part to the success of Bob, carried on by Glenn Stolt, who was our most recent CEO, and of course the wonderful team that I get to operate with. But so we're a company that really is focused on live swine production. We are part of an integrated platform, but we also serve other customers in the industry. I'll refer to them as our packer partners. So I would say we have a very keen interest in maintaining our operating excellence in pork production, and we're a very competitive group, and it keeps us sharp in terms of how we think about the business, how we manage our pigs, health, all the inputs that go into the business. So, but when I think towards the future and the vision of the company and growth, I think we're really at a point where we're looking at trying to enhance the production that we already produce today. And what I mean by that is it's not just about numbers or volume of any sort. It's about being better every day, being more sustainable in utilization of our resources and how we deploy them in the effort of pork production. But one of the key areas that I'll be focused on in the next 3 to 4 years is around our data infrastructure, as well as kind of the systems that are the backbone of the company. Focusing on that and modernizing those systems and processes are paramount. We're excellent if you hold us to a 2004 standard, but today we're able to leapfrog a lot of technologies and get into some really cool stuff as it relates to data. Innovation's another topic. It's a bit of a buzzword in the industry, but when I think about it, we're really focused on not just the products or the outcome. It's really about building a system and a mindset that the organization is able to have and manifest innovation alongside with a really well-oiled operating platform. And the two don't really mix very well. You need two different mindsets when you think about innovation. We're a well-researched company. We have an excellent research platform, but innovation is something that will become near and dear to our hearts. One other thing that will continue is our focus on development and succession planning, but development in a broad sense, not just leadership development for, say, executives or senior leaders, but it's managerial training and also technical skills on farm. I think that we want to become a world-class developer of people, irrespective of how they're entering into the swine industry. And so we're going to be focusing and leaning in on that over the years to come. And then when I think about growth, it's really about our opportunity to meet our consumers along with our customers, consumers, the end user of our product, and how can we enhance and meet them where they're at, what their needs are to essentially create better demand for our products in the years to come.
We got a lot of great things to get to, Greg, but can we just get a brief background about yourself and how you escalated to this position?
Yeah, it's been a long journey for me, that's for sure. I have about 26 years in the swine industry, but my background is in engineering. I'm a structural engineer from Graduated from the University of Waterloo. So I have an engineering mindset. It's heavy in problem solving and analytics and physics, of course, being from engineering. But I really, before I went to engineering school, I grew up in a city of 340,000 called London, Ontario, and I grew up in the inner city, and I didn't get out much. But when I did, I was fascinated by, these big, tall, stocky things. And my father told me it was corn and soybeans. And so when I got my driver's license when I was 16, I headed out of town and found a job at a standardbred racehorse farm and a cash cropping operation just to try and figure out what this is all about. And so that was where I got my yen for agriculture. But then I ended up starting a swine or participating in a swine company and building it in Ontario, Manitoba, and we finished all our pigs in Iowa and in Indiana. With that came lots of challenges, and we grew very quickly and perhaps too fast. But ultimately, we sold all of the farms, and I ended up coming to work at Christensen Farms because I had met Bob and became friends with Bob, and I really wanted to understand what did I do well in the industry, and more importantly, what could I improve on? And so that was the beginning of my journey at Christensen Farms. I did a stint with Maple Leaf Foods, where I learned the packing business, and I was responsible for chilled pork exports to Asia, and ended up with working with a plant in Lethbridge, Alberta, and out in Brandon, Manitoba, and I learned everything about the packing business. It was fantastic, but a little bit too much travel. Um, I had four young kids and a wife at the time, and we stopped recognizing each other. So I decided to get back into entrepreneurship, and I started a company with Steve Wise and Chad Hagen called, it's now known as NutriQuest. So I was one of the founding members at NutriQuest, but I learned a lot about research and development and innovation in the swine industry in those efforts. Then I got a call from Bob back in 2010 to rejoin Christensen Farms, and the rest is history. So I ended up working in areas of risk management, financial planning and analysis, supply chain logistics, marketing of pigs, and other activities, and started to build my career within Christensen Farms over the last decade. And now here I am, the CEO.
Now, as the new CEO, I know we're familiar with industry challenges, Greg. What do you see as some of the challenges and how at Christensen are you positioned to address them?
You know, I tend to wake up every day and start thinking about the opportunities within the business, and maybe they're challenges or not, but I just want to pause just for a second and just think about the wonderful opportunity that we have, not only as a company but as an industry. We've got excellent land resources, both crops, water, access to water. We've got technology and innovation within the United States. We've got access to markets from a geographical perspective. And we have everything needed in terms of a good recipe for producing high quality pork and being able to export it to the globe. USDA is known across the globe in terms of its inspection systems to be safe, and we also are able to do this in an affordable way where we can reach many consumers. So I wake up every morning and I think about that, and then I start thinking about the challenges. But some of the big challenges I think in the industry, they're not going to be unknown to your point, to your audience here. But I think about trade, and our access to trade. So that's more geopolitical issues that come across the industry. I think about the cost of doing business post-pandemic, just the acceleration, not only of our consumables, but farming is very capital intensive. And so when you go to even remodel a barn today, it almost costs the same as what it would have to build the barn in the first place. So those are significant issues. I think the gap between those on the farm and off the farm, so urbanization, let's call it, and communication and trust in what we do as farmers to feed the world, I think is a challenge for the industry. So that voice and telling our story. Um, then I think another piece that's fairly significant is immigration. And in the news and the media, you hear all this stuff about illegal immigration. Well, okay, I get that's an issue in the United States, but a real issue is actually immigration reform for legal immigration. I'm an immigrant. My family's an immigrant. We went through the process. We understand what it takes to get here and do it properly. But I still think the farmers, whether it's cash cropping or whether it's livestock, there's a gap in terms of having access to the workforce that want to come and actually enrich their lives through the experience of agriculture in the United States. Horn animal disease, that's another top of the list. At Christensen Farms, we've spent a lot of time on that topic, and we really, we have our plan. It's really part of our crisis management plan, and it's an offshoot of, but it's a robust plan on should it come to our country. Here's what we're going to be thinking about. Here's what we're doing, and we're set up and ready for it. But it's a big, big challenge for the industry. Um, and then I would say sustainability. And it's not that we're not sustainable as agriculture, maybe a bit on, once again, telling our story, but it's actually the rules of engagement in the sustainability space that I think our industry is challenged with. And I think we're behind in terms of having a seat at the table and being able to articulate where we play, where we don't, and why. And I think that's an important challenge that the industry, I think, is standing up to and facing. So um, the other thing that I'd mentioned too, it's just how do we posture ourselves as an industry through our trade groups and representatives? Are we playing from behind, or are we playing proactively and hitting issues before they become major issues? I would say is an area of opportunity. But from our lens, and when we think about how do we deal with this, we've stood up our own communications team. We have our own public affairs department that helps us engage with legislators, lawmakers, regulators, and the public as a whole. So they create awesome venues for our people to be able to engage and offer different talents that we have to be able to expose some of our positions and common sense, quite frankly, on behalf of the industry. So,
Well, I liked how you talked about focus on the opportunity, because there's always opportunity out there and we need to focus on that. And do you feel like touching on the sustainability initiatives at all, Greg?
sure. I think you mean internally within the organization on what we're doing is what you're asking, if I'm not mistaken, Jim.
Yeah, so like sustainability is a growing priority in agriculture.
Yes.
And I know Christensen Farms has been an advocate for sustainability. I know I talked to some of your team about that.
Yeah.
Like, what other efforts do you have in place to ensure sustainability internally?
It's funny because and I'm speaking probably to the choir here, but agriculture as a whole has been sustainable. When you're in a commodity environment, you're always seeking to improve, use less resource to produce more. In the 50s, we had 11 million sows. Now we've got 6 in the United States, and we produce 40% more product. I mean, that's a definition of sustainability in our industry by a long shot. But we're on our 4th year, I believe, of publishing our own sustainability report. And I won't get into the details of it, but really it's about what are our core tenets, or how are we going to deal with sustainability as an organization? And we've concluded very quickly that, you know, we're not going to get involved in any greenwashing or say something that we're not. We're going to be focused on our impact, not our image. And that might seem counterintuitive, but we're more concerned internally about, well, what can we do to improve the sustainability of the operation? And we define sustainability similar to the National Pork Board. It's our people, it's our pigs, it's the planet, and as a business, it's our prosperity. So without prosperity, we can't invest in ourselves and improvements. So um, you know, and we use actual data versus models. And why I say that, it's so important. Some of these models are based on little studies in other countries with different genetics decades ago that are used to make these models and assumptions that are simply not accurate. So we're investing in getting to the actual point of where are we when it comes to CO2e emissions, as an example. We're investing in different technologies that help us answer those questions that we can stand behind as a company and hopefully as an industry over time. And we have an immense responsibility in sustainability, but we have to ourselves internally and as an industry, we have a bigger responsibility of telling the great story that we have and to the world, because like I said in the beginning of our conversation, we have this amazing opportunity in the United States with all of these resources and technology to do it the best in the world. And I think our sustainability numbers and measures should be a reflection of that.
What kind of leader are you, Greg?
That's a great question. I ask myself that every morning in the mirror, I suppose, right? But
You change daily.
yeah. No, I think about I think about leadership, and what's my leadership style? I think it starts with and it starts with understanding your people. And when I say that, it's not about just a phone call or a simple conversation. It's about going out and working with your people. And I've been blessed to have many opportunities to go on farm and work with, whether it's our service staff or senior leaders or someone who's farrowing pigs, or someone that's raising pigs in a nursery and talking to them. And what I'm looking for is I'm looking for, how is the organization helping the individual get the work done? Are we blocking or are we providing? And if we're blocking, we can change that. And if we're providing, we can offer more of it. And that lens helps guide me in terms of what initiatives we should be focused on as an enterprise. And more importantly, how do we make our work more effective in the field and increase our productivity, and quite frankly, enjoyment in the workplace is a big part of it. So I would say I have a few core tenets as well that I think about. I'm big, being an engineer, I'm big on measurement. I believe if it's not measured, it's not managed. And if you don't have good data and you have to make a decision, it's fine, but get data and use data to its fullest so that you can make accurate decisions and have good impacts and results at the end of the day. I also think a little bit about failing. I failed many times in my career, and I look for that. I look for leaders that allow their people to fail once in a while, but help them, support them through that, but also so that they understand what is the emotion of winning. And they'll appreciate a lot more if they've had, the odd non-success, let's call it, in their career, and have been able to pick themselves up, dust off, and move on, and or move to better things in terms of approach or a new way of looking at things. So in our business anyways, we're so focused on excellence and productivity that sometimes we don't give ourselves the latitude to fail once in a while. And that's why we have research, fail small and win big. I mean, it's part of the fabric of the company and the organization. So um, giving people venues to learn and grow and develop is a big part of, I would call, when I think about leadership, it's about providing, and it's about supporting people. The organization does not serve me. I serve the organization. And I expect my leaders to have that same mantra as we engage in the business day in and day out.
What about strategic goals? As you step into this leadership role, are there like is there a top three goals that you've set for CF over the next 5 years?
Well, it's part of my role, even in the past, was strategic planning, and so we've always had a strategic plan that we've operated. They're typically um, let's call it 5 to 7 year guiding principles. And so, a good strategic plan in my mind has to connect with your people and the capabilities of where you're going, and capabilities of your people that match up with where you're going. But and our latest strategic plan, we called it Leg Up 2030, and so we really have a few pillars in it. Some are business related, that are mission critical, about our productivity, and the results that we want to achieve. But two of our five pillars are actually people centric, and that's in recognition. I think we cast our last strategic plan about 3 years ago, and we were really had set it prior to the pandemic, held off for a couple of years in launching it, but we knew that to be successful in our industry, we had to lean in on developing our people. We call it grit of our people, and we had to lean in on not only how we develop their technical skills, their management skills, but also their leadership skills, if appropriate, given the different layers in the organization that we have. So that's a very important one. I already mentioned the innovation in data and data infrastructure. So we're redoing our how we consume our data, how we organize it, so that we can have one version of the truth, leading to data science and better analytics across the organization, as well as where every time I talk to fellow CEOs on this topic, we are going through an ERP implementation as well. So that's kind of the backbone and systems and processes of the company. And we have 23 different systems that we're amalgamating into three, and we're making it simple so that it's one version of the truth with higher order language, we'll call it, and capabilities that keep the system real time versus some of our legacy systems that we utilize today. And I'd say the other piece of our growth plan is really around that consumer facing. How do we best support those selling our products? And more importantly, how do we understand what's coming at us? If we think about different generations and consumption habits, and how do we participate and be relevant to all of our consumers across the board? And I think that there's a ton of A, innovation, and B, things that we can do back on the farm to have a significant impact on that. So it doesn't seem like a big lofty, we're going to add X sows or whatever. It has nothing to do with that. It's really about being better at what we do every day, and making sure that we meet the future demands of our consumers.
Now, what about technology and innovation? Are you guys at Christensen Farms leveraging efficiencies in tech advancements? Anything you're excited about?
Yeah, that's a great question. I always remember Bob's. It's for me, it's a famous quote. It might not be for your viewers, but he always had this saying that it's one thing to be on the leading edge, but the other side is the bleeding edge. And so it's this cautiousness that is embedded within the culture of our organization. But We are branching out in terms of we do try new technologies. We thoroughly vet them, but we're not creating the technologies today. Today, we're just maybe strategic early adopters at best, but we're not on farm tinkering and making things better for ourselves. And that's an area that I think we will invest in the future. Um, but there's all kinds of, you think of they're basic things, in terms of feed, air, and water. And there's all kinds of technologies that are being developed just to help become more consistent, repeatable, and actionable in terms of uh, um, discovering if there's a health challenge or if there's something that's not quite right in a roof line, let alone, on a site itself. So we're also looking at bin monitoring. Of course, we've got a lot of work that has gone into that, and that's going to be a great technology to deploy. We think of how not only what's the return on the technology that you're deploying, but we can justify it just on safety alone, as an example. And so if you don't have to climb bins, or you have a way to just keep people on the ground that's safer than properly climbing a bin, regardless. So I think if we can have technologies that help us with the basics, which we're actively engaged in today, and deploy them throughout the system, and then we're able to harness some of the data differently and new data that we didn't have in the past, which is very exciting for an engineer background person like me.
Now, when we look at consumer trends, Greg, whether it's demand for the product, how is Christensen adapting to changing demands when it comes to whether it's animal welfare? I know we talked about sustainability before, but maybe more so on product quality.
Yeah, I think product quality is I would say it's an up and coming trend. We've talked about it in the past, and then I'm talking about as an industry now. And then we get into other topics that it could be how we house our animals, or whatever the soup is of the industry for the day, if you will. And um, we've been very focused on leveraging our farm to fork model to be able to better understand what we are producing and at what quality levels we're able to for a very long time. And I think that's very important and key to work with all stakeholders in terms of whether it's genetics or feed or the environment in which the pigs are housed in. There's also a huge impact in terms of how pigs are harvested. What's that cold chain look like? That has impact on the end quality and eating experience for our products. So we've been leaning into that and utilizing data so that we are repeatable in our practices for quality improvement. But there's also a whole plethora of innovation. Just go to the grocery store and take a look at the shelves of different products that have emerged over the last several years, to be able to take loins and do something a little bit different. What about portion size, and what about our product, not just as center of the plate, but say as an ingredient that augments others. And so I think we're playing in a lot of those spaces, or trying to, but we really at Christensen Farms focus on what are the signals from those that are in field and experiencing and or innovating product, and then what can we do to actually make it better, and yet be cost competitive so that our offerings are affordable for the public at large.
And what about partnerships in the industry? I know collaboration is key to growth in the agriculture sector. How does Christensen approach partnerships with other companies and collaborations? How does that play into your long-term strategy?
Yeah, I would say, whether it's partnerships or even dealing with say even vendors as an example, but we believe there's space to both win. And so it's really about getting it right, stepping back and understanding what, what both parties, are want out of any arrangement for that matter. And if we can't see a win-win, then it's something that we're likely to shy away from. But the partnerships that we have, mainly in the integrated supply chain, they offer a common thought in terms of how to approach the market from a product quality perspective. What initiatives are we going to lean in that support the sales efforts of whether it's through Triumph Foods or a packer partner that we deal with, and what are their specific needs. So I would say that we're very adaptable in terms of different things that we can do to support different initiatives. And when we put our minds to it, we generally, it might seem like a daunting task, like say Prop 12 is an example. But when we put our minds together and we figure out this is how we want to do it, generally we come up with the right answer in terms of how we're going to produce brand X or quality Y or attribute Z as an example. So our team is able to consume those things. We'll maybe have to do some research, who knows? And we'll be able to put our best effort in terms of supporting consumer demands and our partners that we deal with across the board. The other collaboration that I think is important too is with legislators and regulators, those, that are charged with overseeing laws on the book, so to speak. And I think we have open dialogue and share our thoughts and perspectives of course we're going to be biased to the farm and we make no bones about that, but we try and help people see maybe another side or a different perspective that might have a positive impact on whatever outcome is being discussed.
What about your legacy, Greg? What legacy do you want to leave at Christensen Farms, and how do you hope to impact the industry during your tenure as CEO?
Well, that's a great question. It's a good question, Jim. I've had time to think about it. Maybe perhaps I'm in formation stage. From at the end of the day, this is what I exactly want it to look like. But what I've thought of, I've been part of this company for in total 16 years. And I've had great relationships along the way. And we've had great success. Of which I've been part of. And so in a way, my legacy is already forming. It's just a different title, if you will, from leading the organization and being the CEO. But when I leave, I would hope that we still we've maintained our what I would call world-class production. We have a world-class safety culture. Um, I spoke about the data infrastructure. Hopefully, by the time I retire, that's long past, but that we've got a well-oiled data infrastructure and information systems that will help support the business and decision making. I would say maintaining an active succession plan where we have ready, able people, willing and able people to be able to take not only my role, but roles that report to me and report to them. We are active in that as an organization. It's so critical for the longevity of the organization to have talent and talented leaders. Robust sustainability platform, if you will, I think would be where we've got our objectives that are achievable and not greenwashed, if you will. And then I would say the last thing that I hope to leave the organization with is the ability to remain adaptable in a very volatile, very challenging industry. And so if I've done all of those things, at the end of the day, I'll be able to smile. So
Well, great conversation today, Greg. Thanks for joining us, and happy 50th anniversary to the entire team at Christensen.
thank you very much, Jim. I appreciate the time.